More gigantic foreign policy news. Stunning. Something I honestly thought I would never see, but it's interesting the rationale here. So Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman, Democratic Senator Bob Menendez now saying, let's go ahead and put this up on the screen, that the U.S. must immediately freeze all aspects of our cooperation with Saudi Arabia, including any arms sales and security cooperation beyond what is absolutely necessary to defend U.S. personnel and interests. So he does put a little bit of a loophole in there, how you define what is absolutely necessary to defend U.S. personnel and interests. But there's no doubt about it, and let's go ahead and put this full statement up on the screen so we can see it. This is a stunning shift in the relationship between the U.S. and Saudi. He says, I want to read through this because his rationale here is important. This comes in the wake, of course, of Russia's attacks on Ukraine, and he says, I'm horrified by Russia's depraved and desperate escalation against civilian infrastructure across Ukraine, including in Kyiv. I pledge to use all means at my disposal to accelerate support for the people of Ukraine and to starve Russia's war machine. That is why I must also speak out against the government of Saudi Arabia's recent decision to help underwrite Putin's war through the OPEC Plus cartel. There's no room to play both sides. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia chose in a terrible decision driven by economic self-interest. And that's when he goes on to say the U.S. must immediately freeze all aspects. And he says, I will not greenlight any cooperation with Riyadh until the kingdom reassesses its position with respect to the war in Ukraine. Enough is enough. So all of this comes after, as we covered here, OPEC Plus had their meeting. They said, we're going to cut production significantly. That's great for Saudi Arabia's bottom line. It's great for Russia's bottom line. Keeping oil prices elevated and high. It's bad for us. It's bad for the world. This also comes on the heel of the Biden administration trying to extend an olive branch and going and meeting with them, sort of on bended knee. Obviously, that didn't work. But I also think it's noteworthy, Saagar, what this comes in reaction to.
That's the problem.
It's not about Jamal Khashoggi and human rights. It's not about the atrocities they committed in Yemen, creating the worst humanitarian catastrophe on the entire planet. It's not about what they're doing to our own domestic population in terms of screwing us over with gas prices. It's not even about it might be partly about the political predicament that he's putting Biden in, that they're putting Biden in terms of putting the screws to him before the midterm. It's because they got crosswise of his, interest in terms of the Ukrainian war effort. So I do think that that's interesting.
I mean, look, I just generally think that you're never going to play the human rights game whenever you're buying oil. Let's just all be real about that. So we might as well just resort to hard power interests. So is this working out for us, this relationship? Obviously, no.
Nope.
You're going to screw us on gas at the same time that you're buying our weapons. Well, that seems ridiculous. I have some qualms, the fact that it's all centered on Ukraine. But I think the reality, too, is the Saudis and the UAE, they basically are going to say, we don't believe you, Bob Menendez. So it is true, Bob Menendez does have the capability in order to hold up all weapon sales. Here's the issue. He's a Democrat. Republicans are probably going to be back in power, likely, at least a 50th percentile chance of doing so in a couple of months. You really think they are going to hold up Saudi weapon sales? They're just as bought as everybody else. Similarly,
they're actually, I would say, more bought at this point.
Probably more bought.
And then that's Jared Kushner.
Okay, and then put also on top of this, how are the people in the Gulf reacting? They're laughing at you. They don't believe you. Look, the UAE president is visiting Russia today, at 1 week after voting against the United States in OPEC Plus, directly contravening the interests and ask of Anthony Blinken. He is not visiting America. He is visiting Russia to go meet with Putin. Why? To celebrate the United Oil Union or whatever, and basically stick a middle finger up to Washington and just be like, yeah, I don't believe you. At the end of the day, we have most of you people bought and paid for. We're going to do whatever's good for us. And there's no question this is good for the UAE and for Saudi Arabia. No question. They're making a ton of money. They are selling oil black market Russian oil to the hundreds of millions of dollars. Relabeling barrels and kind of mixing it with their infrastructure. A lot of Russian money, from what I have read, has fled to the Dubai banking system. Dubai is like the banking capital of terrorists and Russians and all. If you've ever been there, it's a crazy place. But my point is that this has been a great thing for their economies, and they know that at the end of the day, Washington will come to not only their defense, but we'll probably buckle and sell them the weapons anyway in the long run. They have this whole town wired so that a single senator's objection is probably just not going to do anything. But it is noteworthy nonetheless, and we should celebrate it.
Yeah.
That somebody is going to come out and say it.
And he's not just a single senator.
Right, he's the chair of the
Senate
SFRC,
Foreign Relations Committee, and he's the guy who can veto any and all arms sales.
Right.
So it does have a lot more teeth and a lot more credibility when it comes from Bob Menendez versus when it comes from basically anyone else. I mean, the only other person who would be as significant in terms of his words here would be the president himself. So yeah, it's a coin flip, I would say at this point, whether Democrats hold on to the Senate and Menendez holds on to this position. But you know, for my entire life, there has been a nearly lockstep relationship between both parties in the U.S. and the Saudi government. And the fact that you have now a significant divide among a, you know, mainstream and fairly hawkish Democrat here in Menendez, who, you know, is this guy's very interested in those sort of like hard power relationships. And he's not a particularly noble character. The fact that someone like him is now saying, that's it, we're done. Very, very noteworthy and a remarkable departure from the way things have been for a long, long time.
I totally agree.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.